What is up, all you beautiful people? What is a title insurance and policy, and why is it so important? My name is Jonathan Big Country Richards, your local Texas real estate expert. Let's dive in. What is title policy, guys? This is probably one of the most common questions that we get in the real estate field is, what does a title company do? What is title insurance? Where do they get their information? Why does it protect me? And why is it so important? So I'm really excited because I'm joined today by Reagan Sampson. She is with Austin Title, and she's a longtime friend of mine, somebody I trust with my clients. And we're just gonna have a candid conversation today about what title is. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about who you are and what your role is with Austin Title.
Alrighty, well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Once again, my name is Reagan Sampson. I am the Associate Vice President of Business Development over at Austin Title Company. I have a good 14 years in the title insurance business. I started right at 18, opening files, answering phone calls, helping out at the front desk, being an assistant, and I've worked my way into a role that really suits my personality, which is out meeting agents, out meeting lenders, helping them understand title, helping their clients get through the closing process very seamlessly, and also helping agents and lenders grow their brands.
And you've been doing this, and it's a family business too.
It is.
So you've been doing it, and you've been around it quite a bit in your life, and a lot of experience, and really admirable. So let's just hop in real quick, and let's just, before we get into what a title policy is and what title insurance is per se, let's just talk about how the title company helps facilitate the transaction, because you guys play a very important role from contract to close. So can you tell us a little bit about what you guys' role is in the transaction aside from title insurance?
Absolutely. So as the title company, we are making the process feel like there are no hiccups along the way. So we take on researching the property. That means digging into every past owner that property has ever had to ensure that it was done the right way to go into the hands of a new owner, so that that person who's saying that they are the rightful seller at that time when the new buyer is coming in has the rights to make that decision, and that no one can make the claim to your property when it's actually yours.
Yeah, and that's a really important and uber important to the whole transaction. You don't want to buy a property and then get 3 years into it and find out there was a lien on the property or something.
Not at all. And when those liens do come up and we're doing the title searches, and let's say there's 3 liens on the property, we as the title company are not telling the new buyers that there's a bunch of stuff going on, right? Like, we are taking care of those items on behalf of the sellers in order for everyone to have a smooth transaction in that contracted date. So by the time that closing date happens, buyers are just like, okay, it's time for us to get keys. You know, like, they don't know that, you know, ex-wife had to get paid off. You know, there was a lien from a contractor that had to get paid off. Like, they don't really need to know all of that. It just has to be clean title by the time they take it, and it's their insurance policy from then forward.
And so that's kind of the meat and potatoes of what title insurance is, but you guys help facilitate the transaction as well, right? So we've talked about in previous videos about how earnest money is kind of like the collateral that holds the contract together to close. You guys hold escrow, right?
Yes.
You guys also help with things like HOA documentation and like deeds and things like that, right?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about what that process is and what all that entails.
All right, so yes, almost everything that's built these days is most likely going to be in an HOA. So that's one of those things where every HOA company is different, but a lot of them will basically take until the very last second to get us docs, and we need a resale certificate stating that previous owner is selling the property to new buyer, and we have to get that resale certificate before you can actually close. So if we know there's an HOA, we got to start ordering that the day we get contract, right? Like, we got to stay on top of it, because sometimes it can take up to 3 weeks.
Wow.
And your contract date might be 30 days.
Yeah.
And so that leads up to that last week to get the final documents sorted out, gathered, all of that. As far as other items, what were some of the other ones you brought up?
So like holding escrow,
Yes. Oh, yes.
helping execute the contract, make sure all parties are communicated to.
Yes. So earnest and option, those are kind of your skin in the game, right? Like
Right.
you're out checking out properties. You put in a smaller amount in the earnest money. Let's say you're going for a $500,000 house. You're probably going to put in between like $5,000 or so in earnest money to put into that contract to say we are in it. We are in this contract. We want it to work out. And then the option fee is something that holds your place that you're just willing to give if, let's say during the inspection period, something is totally wrong with the house, like the wiring's all wrong or the sewer is completely messed up or whatever it is. The option fee is more like a $200, $300, $1,000 fee that you're like, okay, well, I'm willing to walk away from that, but it holds my position here as the number one buyer in place to buy this property. Like we're under contract, the earnest money will get back if those things are wrong with the property, but option fee, we're willing to give this amount, and it can help set you apart when you're writing offers and there's a multiple offer situation, because let's say I offer $1,000 option money, I'm willing to just lose that if something goes wrong, but your other buyer is like $200, maybe that is the deciding factor.
Yeah. And what's really cool about title companies is that they help mediate the process. So let's say, for instance, you get into a contract and there is an issue during option, and that option money has to be given to the seller, right? There's not really many ways that that's ever returned or refundable, but earnest money, right? The title company acts as that mediator between the properties to make sure that the right party gets the funds that they need to get, right? So it doesn't put it all on the real estate agents and then they're going back and forth, well, I get this money or I get this money or I have the check but I'm not giving it to you.
We're an unbiased third party that is holding those funds until we are told when to release them.
And you guys also work hand in hand with the lender as well.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of information that the lender is going to need for financing purposes. And so you guys serve, like, I would say outside of obviously the agent and the lender, you guys are like right there, like
absolutely. We're walking through every
part of the transaction. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about title insurance specifically. So we kind of talked about it a little bit. It's basically a way that you guys are researching the property to make sure that there's nothing that's holding it back from transferring to another party, correct?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about, let's dive a little bit more into that. Let's talk specifically about title insurance policy and also to a lender's title policy versus a
owner's title policy.
Owner's title policy.
Yes. So your new buyer, it's their policy. Usually in the state of Texas, the seller of that property is working with a real estate agent and they're listing their property. They'll put in the MLS, a preferred title company, and that's usually where the file stays, unless the buyer negotiates and says, hey, we have a title person that we love and we'd like to use them, and seller's agent says, okay, we negotiated, yes, like we'll take it, we're moving forward with you guys. So that's kind of where it starts, is that you're creating a policy, an insurance policy that will protect that new buyer from anything that has happened in the past relating to that policy. And then we, as the title company, would be, if anything did arise, we would accept the liability as your legal department, basically, to take on the claim. So someone says, I had this lien against the property, or so-and-so is an heir to the property, and let's say the title company missed it. We, the title company that have insured that property, would say, well, that was our mistake. We accept that claim. We are paying out of our pocket whatever it takes to clean that situation up, and you, the new buyer, are safe, right? Like, we have assumed the liability of that. You are safe in your home. You have nothing to worry about. No one can make claims to this, and you're going to lose that property.
It's so interesting to me too, because a title policy, like if you actually go through it, has tons of exhibits, right? And each exhibit is a different section of the policy. But I've always found it fascinating how you guys do this research. I often hear it referred to as a plant.
Yes. I can describe the title plant.
Please.
Yeah, there are a bunch of different types of personalities that work at a title company.
Yeah.
So The most like an agent would be the business development people. We are very, very social. We are out and about. We are business builders.
You social, come on.
We love doing all of the things.
Yeah.
Now, the opposite of the business development rep is the title plant employee. The title plant employee likes to wear sweatpants, listen to earbuds, and be on their computer doing data research all day long.
I couldn't do that.
And so, like, it's a totally different personality.
Right.
You have to be that in order to enjoy the title plant thing. And those people, I'm so glad that they love their job, because they would hate my job, right? Like, there's like, we don't see eye to eye,
Yeah.
but we're so thankful for one another.
Sure.
Because without me, they don't
Yeah.
have business. Without them, I can't do my job.
Right.
So the title plant is researching the property. They are gathering records. A lot of it is public record, but it's so much information that for an average consumer, it would be too difficult to handle it all on your own. It's just a nice, clean way of gathering all of the items. They put it into what's called a title commitment, and that shows basically if there's anything that could be a red flag to be insured, right? So you have to clean up everything in the Schedule C, which shows those items, before you can close on the property. Or else that title company would have to make some sort of exception, which is most likely not going to happen, because they don't want to take on something that's too risky. And this is all for that new buyer, right? Like, we don't need that buyer getting into a risky situation.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, also too, like, okay, let's back it up a little. So you said red flags. So, not to put you on the spot, but like, what's probably the most common red flag that you guys get out of this process?
Oh, I would say liens and possible heirs or divorces. An unmarried man is stating that he's selling the property. We look up the records, and he's still
there.
He's still married in the
Yeah.
eyes of the state.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we have to work that out.
Yeah.
Hey, are you truly the rightful seller? Because we're going to need your wife, even if you guys don't live together, to sign off, because this
Sure.
is community property.
Yeah. I see those too. Those are probably the most common, and also too the liens. So I've actually seen it where sellers, and I've had this happen with clients before, where they get into the process and they had like a mechanics lien from 10 years ago over a patio that was put in, that they just had no clue that was even out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those things do come up, but they're correctable, right?
Right. And if something like that is on your property, it's not a super scary thing. A lot of the times you don't realize that contractors have placed liens against your property. It's not something that whoever did it is like really notifying you about. They're just like, we're just going to put this lien on this property because we feel like we were owed something. And maybe they're right.
Right.
Maybe that's maybe it's a paid for thing and they made an error, and that is something that we, the title company, research as well.
That's crazy, and these things happen all the time. I mean, it's pretty common and normal. So it's not something, if you come up against, that you can't get past, right?
Right.
Also, too, you guys help facilitate or help with the survey. Well, I say help with the survey. It's really more on the agent and the client, right? But we have what's called a T47, which is required, and that's how you guys accept surveys. And this is probably the second most common thing that I get from home sellers, right? Is what in the world is a T47? And I always have to explain it. It's basically an affidavit, right? Stating that no changes have been done to the property since the last survey. How often do you see a survey rejected? Is that something that's common?
It has to be really, really old, or really poor quality.
Right, where you can't actually see
Where you can't actually
everything.
see much, because the survey departments are pretty lenient. Like, if you can see the boundaries, if you can see where the structures are, if you can, streets, lines, the whole bit. Like, if you can tell where the property is, we'll accept it. Now, there's magically a pool there that wasn't there, that's now getting sold.
Right.
That's when you have to change up that survey.
Yeah, absolutely. And that could be an additional cost in the process
You
too.
can either get a new survey, or some lenders will allow you to draw the items in scale.
Yeah.
Like, you can actually just draw them in.
And that goes back to, again, you guys are working hand in hand with other people that are going to be on your team during the process to help correct all these things and get through it.
We are constantly, daily, communicating with okay, is this approved? And if not, why not? And so that we can meet those deadlines and requirements throughout the process with the lender, because the lender's requirements are going to be a lot. They're risking a lot by loaning on this property.
Yeah.
And so they need to know that everything is as they think it is.
Absolutely. Very, very important. And most lenders will not fund the transaction unless everything is in line. Every document has been signed. So with that said, let's talk about that real quick. So obviously the process, you're going to be dealing with the title company from time you go under contract to the time you close, right? They're going to help facilitate a lot of things. We talked about that. But let's just talk about what to expect at closing. Because I think a lot of people get really confused, like, oh, they're just going to send me some paperwork and I'm going to electronically sign it, or I don't really have to show up, or not all the parties that are on the loan have to be there to sign, and things like
that's a big
that.
one.
So give us this like a brief synopsis of what a closing day looks like for somebody buying a home.
Okay, so first of all, let's say, like you said about the multiple signers, it is standard by our team. We notify you from the start. You need to make sure that you have a valid ID, right? Like you have to set, like every party that is in ownership of this home will need to have a valid ID. And if their lender requires a wet signature, they will have to sign in person with a notary.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be a title company employee. We can send out a mobile notary to you to make it easier. But most lenders are still requiring wet signatures.
Yep.
Some of them are not, and we call that remote online notarization.
Ooh, that's a big word.
Yes.
I like it.
RON. So we call those RON closings, and I'm huge into it. I absolutely love that. This is our future. If you can get on a Zoom, sign with a digital, like there are notaries with a digital certificate. Do all your stuff there. It's amazing. Like this is the future of real estate. But a lot of the times too, we might even be dealing with paper checks. Like some people are old school, and the majority of homes that are like 3 bedrooms or more are owned by an older generation. And so we're dealing with a little bit of an old school method of continuing to do closings in person. They're coming to our locations. Our teams are bringing hard copies of documents. It's still very much integrated. You have the very digital and you have the old school. Like you just have to base your efforts on what the client needs.
You guys try to make it as convenient as possible too. I've worked with Austin Title many times, and they're very, very willing to facilitate however we need to get the closing done.
Exactly.
I've been in situations where we have had a divorced couple that couldn't be in the same building or within 1,000 feet of each other.
Very common.
You know what I mean? So like you guys do a really good job of help facilitating that. So they come in, they have their ID, everybody that has to sign, and they're basically going to get this huge book of paperwork that's from the lender. And you guys have escrow officers actually going to sit down with them. In most cases, we'll help explain some of that too if the lender's not there to make the client feel comfortable, right?
Every time.
Yeah.
Yep, every time. Unless you are a seasoned investor and you've read through all of those documents prior to closing, which we will send them out to you prior to closing, so that if you're a reader, you can spend all night if you want to reading these documents.
Yeah.
But the escrow teams are trained to, at closing, walk you through everything that you have questions about so that you feel confident and reassured going to the next page, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, I understand my financials. I understand my tax liability. Like I understand that, prorated taxes are taken here or not.
Sure.
The escrow teams will walk you through everything.
Yeah.
Right there. You have that time with them, so utilize it. Get your questions out. Ask in front of your agent. We love it when agents come. Like, it's just a time for everyone to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. And Reagan and I talk about this all the time. It's so important to have a seasoned professional team on your side. So you talk about the escrow officer and then them being able to explain all that. I personally go to my closings as an agent. The lenders that I work with come to my closings as well. So now, not only you're getting that escrow agent, you're getting everybody that's on your team that helped you get from point A to point B, and that's so important in the process. So, well, thank you for explaining all that. I have one last question that I kind of want to talk about, and this is kind of one of those things I'm going to put you on the spot because we didn't talk about this, but it's very, very important, and it's come to a point now as a real estate agent we actually have to disclose this, and that's wire fraud. So wire fraud is a big deal in the title world, and there's a lot of scams that go on out there. Tell us a little bit about maybe what you've seen as far as what that is, and explain that, and then what you guys do to help protect the consumer.
Okay, well, I'm so glad you asked about this.
Yeah.
You guys, wire fraud is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
That's crazy.
A multi-billion-dollar industry, and that's only what's reported.
Yeah.
Like that, there is no telling really the scale of what is missed.
Sure.
So, with that said, everyone needs to make money, right? We can't just like give our funds away to scammers that are in, you know, different countries. It's like we have so many precautions in place to help save the consumer from things like that. For instance, about maybe a little over a year ago, we started seeing a lot of vacant lots coming for sale. And we realized quickly that these scammers are impersonating the sellers. They're putting them on market for unbeatable prices. They're getting multiple offers from various people, writing contracts from multiple parties. Like they've got like 5 different contracts going at 5 different title companies. They're all selling the same piece of land that's not even theirs. And it's a huge, awful industry. So we, Austin Title, we send out a letter to the owner's mailing address of record, which is not at a vacant property. And we always start with that. Unless we hear back from that owner, we don't continue with the file, because 9 times out of 10, it's someone impersonating that seller trying to sell it on their behalf.
Yeah.
And there have been companies that have wired the funds, that have, you know, like they've gotten through closing and they're
Sure.
like, whoa, like
What just happened?
Yeah, the owner has no clue.
We're talking about like could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yes, a loss of a property, hundreds of thousands of dollars based on this fraudulent activity. And so with the whole wire fraud situation, always call, verify wiring instructions. Don't trust emails, because the scammers are going to jump in right at closing time most of the time and try to like weasel into getting into your email, and usually it'll be from the consumer's side, because we have like heavily encrypted secure email portals with VPNs and all that. But new buyers Gmail, it's like a fraudster's paradise.
Absolutely.
They just jump right in, they pretend to be us, they'll copy signature lines, they'll tell you, oh, we changed our account number, we changed our routing number, and that's when you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. Let me call the title company, let me Google Austin Title, call them, hey, I need to verify my wiring instructions, and talk to a real human from a Google site that is trusted and verified, because you never want to risk it.
No,
you never want to risk it. Like, even on my personal homes, I know this is silly, but like I have always used cashier's checks.
Yeah.
I'm just like, eliminate the risk. I'll just go get a cashier's check and bring it to closing. Yeah. Because you have to call every time. And if you're doing mobile and all that, I get it. Wire is a very easy way of transporting money, but there is more risk involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's becoming more prevalent in our industry, and something we're all aware of. In fact, as realtors, we actually have a disclosure that we give to our clients that they have to sign, warning them about wire fraud. And it's because it's become so common. Well, thank you so much. That was awesome and a ton of information, and I hope it was useful for all of you. I'm going to be putting your contact information in the video as well, so if you'd like to reach out to Reagan, you can. But as always, if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me as well. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do this for you guys, and by subscribing and liking, it just tells me that the value that I'm bringing you is valuable, and that you want more of it. So go forth, be awesome, be epic, be legendary. My name's Jonathan Big Country Richards, your local Texas real estate Austin expert. Big Country out.